You know what's crazy? I'm a huge MCU fan, but the only Marvel movies I've never ever watched until now are the first two Thor movies. And they're still pretty good, though I thought the first one was the better of the two, but Ragnarok was even better, and I remember it being pretty awesome when I first watched it back in 2017, because it was just such a fun movie, and I was kind of expecting Love and Thunder to be quite similar. Since you know how drastically they changed the poster design since The Dark World and made it look way more colorful, which just screams fun. But that wasn't entirely the case at all. And I'd say that the current era of Thor movies follows the same pattern from the first two movies, since, you know, I like the first movie more than the second one. The same applies here, where I believe that Ragnarok is by far the more superior movie. But it's not just the comparison that makes this movie feel worse, but the whole movie in general, unfortunately, felt pretty underwhelming and just could have been much better. So Love and Thunder follows Thor on a new journey when he realizes that a god-killing machine is wreaking havoc all over the universe, so he rounds up a crew and tries to take him down. Pretty simple, right? This is a movie that is very beautiful and visually attractive, as you'd expect, right? And some scenes were epic and awesome to watch, sure, but underneath all that is a failure to deliver what could have been. Now, I had really high hopes for this movie, mainly after learning that Christian Bale was playing Gore the God Butcher. And man, Christian Bale does deliver menacing, spine-tingling, and chilling performance. He was great, and there was this one scene in the movie where the whole picture turned to black and white just to signify his terror and character, and I just love that contrast. But it's just that his character could have been way better executed, and that's the thing I really wanted to touch base on for most of this video, because I feel like mainly all of the underwhelming nature of this movie has to do with the villain. You know, with a great hero comes an even greater villain. That's a motto I really love and live by, because I think the villain is equally important, if not even more so, in a superhero movie. And after being very interested in Gore prior to this movie, you know, like as soon as I found out that Christian Bale was going to be playing him, I read his backstory, some of his backstory in the comics, and I swear that was way more interesting than whatever happened to him in this movie, and I think that's why I'm more disappointed than usual. His character just felt pretty disposable in this movie, because in the end, he just felt like any other villain, which I really wouldn't have guessed for a so-called Butcher of the Gods. Most of his killings and acts are done off-screen, so you don't really see too much of his development, and in the end, I just didn't really feel too much for him as a character or a villain. You know, as soon as the movie started, I was like, oh yeah, we're in for a good one, because there's some backstory on Gore, and then there's some recap for Thor. But the more I watched, the more it almost felt a tad boring, because we were just waiting. Like, I was just waiting to see Gore, and I wanted to see him do more. With all that being said though, this movie had quite a fun journey to watch, but obviously it could have been better, and I was hoping before the start of the movie that it would be both fun and terrifying in a way, like it has the best of both worlds. And it should, since you've got Gore as the villain, and the fun nature of it being a recent Thor movie. But I'd say the level of the fun and the comedic elements, while it was there, was definitely not on par with Ragnarok, and the level of horror should have been much more. I did enjoy the funny stories from Korg and Thor's relationship development with his weapons though. That was pretty funny. But I really wish they focused on the terrifying nature of Gore a lot more rather than the fun in this movie, because it just feels like they tried to incorporate both elements so that neither of them could be top notch. And come on, you're never going to be as fun as Ragnarok with having Loki, Hulk/Bruce Banner, and Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. Oh man, I just rewatched that last night, and every so often I found myself just cracking up so hard. Look, while Love and Thunder is pretty epic at certain times and visually pleasing to watch like I said, and I did enjoy the story writing and the way it went, I just feel like after watching so many Marvel movies, this one just feels like one that I'm not going to remember as much. Like, it's just going to be a movie that I know the gist of, and what happens can be described in like 1 or 2 sentences, and that's it. Can a filler movie be the way to describe it? I don't know, maybe. But it just doesn't feel like it has a great effect for the future of MCU films. But still, I guess it doesn't need to, I guess. And that was kind of a given since this is the shortest Marvel movie since 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp, I believe, which is fine because, I mean, the previous 3 Thor movies weren't that long to begin with anyway, and they were fine. And I feel like most people have seen Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home, so maybe they expect every Marvel movie to be pretty long, you know? But nah, those Marvel movies were particularly long because they had a lot to cover. And I guess MCU films which have the greatest effect throughout the MCU can't afford to be that long. Except Eternals. I can't remember why that movie was that long, but I'm not counting that as an MCU film right now. In addition to this movie doesn't have many secrets, and I feel like a lot of that could have been avoided by leaving some things out of the trailer. I mean, I know that I would have been surprised, and it would have made that scene much more special had Jane Foster becoming Mighty Thor and that reveal was being hidden from us and not shown in the trailer. I know they had to give us something to look forward to, right? And have a trailer that everyone talks about, but I feel like them revealing Gore the Butcher is enough, and maybe some hints of Jane being in the movie. Because I do feel like her reveal as another Thor was probably the most welcome surprise in the whole entire movie, and with that being in the trailer, it's like, well, we already expect that then, and then, so there has to be some more surprises, right? And then immediately I'm like thinking with the villain, but nope, nothing out of the ordinary. Sorry to disappoint. You can still watch this movie though. Now, Jane Foster becoming Mighty Thor was probably somewhere in the comics, you know, but being someone who's probably in a large majority of people who have never read the comics, it would have been surprising to us, you know. Ultimately, Love and Thunder was still a pretty decent watch, but could have been way better than it is. I'm going to give Thor Love and Thunder a B-. I am mostly focused on the negative aspect of this movie in this review, not because it was very bad. I mean, I still rated it a B-, but because I'm a critic, you know. I focus on what I want to focus on and what I feel like are the biggest talking points, and if that makes it seem like I don't like the movie, then so be it. It's the overall score that I give at the very end that shows you how much I enjoyed it. And with a B-, you know, it still shows that it wasn't that bad. But anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed. And as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.